Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Run it up.
Good morning and happy Thursday to everyone who celebrates. This is Run It Back. I am Michelle, that's Chandler, that's Lou. I thought we were gonna do accents. I didn't start with that.
Yeah, I was waiting on you.
I didn't kick it off well. You know what, tomorrow's a new day, we'll start fresh. Today is, though, a day full of headlines. It's weird, you didn't think we'd have so much to talk about before the season even starts, and yet, here we are, Lonzo Ball. This is a good one. Returned to the court, first time since 2022. How many games has he not played?
I don't know how many games, but it's over like 1,000 days since he's laced up.
1,000 days. He had 10 points in 15 minutes, had the first shot that he took, nailed it. Seeing him back on the court, I can't imagine anyone feels anything but happy.
This was special. There's someone, I've went through a lot of similar injuries that he has with just nagging knees and just something you have to manage and kind of have constant maintenance throughout your entire season. This made me stoked, and you could tell the teammates after this game giving him the game ball because they know exactly what he's been through. When you're talking about a guy who has had cartilage transplants off cadavers and meniscus transplants, this guy's got a biotic knee at this point. Damn. And I had something similar where I had microfracture, and these were always options that you could possibly do. I never did them, so it's interesting to see that clearly this stuff is so cutting edge and it's working now to be able to get him on the court after over 1,000 days. It's just special. And also, shout out to the Chicago Bulls, too. They have so many chances they could just give up on this kid, but they've seen him putting in the work, and a lot of outside fans just think he's there collecting a check, or he's soft, or he's injury prone. It has nothing to do with that. He got dealt a bad hand, and he clearly has been grinding. He clearly has been putting in all the work and all the effort, so I'm super happy for Lonzo. And he looked great last night. The fact that he made his first shot, too, was awesome.
That's cool. Very movie-like. I mean, you're happy to see it, right, Lou? Like, that's
Absolutely.
1,000 days of not being able to do the thing you love is a lot.
Yeah, it was amazing to see, especially with so much time being ran off the clock. You know, he missed 2 years and some change. Like Chandler mentioned, you play this game long enough, you're going to have injuries, you're going to go through some adversity. I sat out for 10 months dealing with an ACL, and I felt like it was the end of the world. So to do that ×2, and come back and you know, have a solid preseason game, and that's got to feel good to him. You know, even though it was a preseason game, I'm sure he celebrated after that game like it was the Super Bowl. You know, and because sometimes you just have that feeling of, I don't know when I'm going to get back. I'm not sure where I am in my career. So to have that's 1,082 days off, and to come out and play decently, I think that should be great.
Yeah, that's a lot of nights for him to not even doubt himself. You're right. When you get so down like that, and then you don't know if you're ever going to play again, let alone be good and have some success in the league again. But just to be able to get out there on the floor is super special. Now, obviously, if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, if you're front office, you want to see him continue to do this. You want to see him stay
But you should be encouraged.
But this was a great start for him to actually be on the floor in a preseason game. Hopefully nothing happens today, and hopefully he's just
over here knocking
ridiculously sore today. But it was just fantastic to see, and then all his work has paid off.
On the other side of this thing, we saw Julius Randle making his debut in his new uniform, 15 points, 26 minutes. You know, you can read however you want his departure from New York. There were a lot of things that were liked on social media or things that were posted on social media. But do you guys think, Lou, that he's playing with a chip on his shoulder?
He shouldn't. You know, he's in the Western Conference. Now, if you're still in the East, then New York Knicks is going to be a team that you're going to see 4 times a year. You're going to have that opportunity to scratch that itch of getting back at your old team for sure. But you're in the Western Conference, you're going to run into these guys only once in the Garden, once at the Target Center. Don't play with a chip on your shoulder. It's a fresh start for you. Obviously, the Minnesota Timberwolves believe in you. They put you in a position to be successful there. Man, go in it with a clean heart, with a clean soul, and just give the Minnesota Timberwolves fan base the most you can give them.
Yeah, it's not like they did him dirty, right? They sent him to a competing,
I don't think it's the Knicks, though.
Contending team.
The fans and stuff,
I
too.
do think with everything that's happened with him in New York and kind of the banter back and forth with the city, the fans, his wife going online saying that they were ready to leave New York anyways, there's definitely been some talk afterwards.
She did that?
Yeah.
But you know what? She also did it in a way.
It wasn't like shade. It was just like, I think it's more frustrating that from our kids out of schools to Minnesota than like us leaving. leaving.
It was clickbaity to say she was like, I want to get the hell out of here, but it was more like, yeah, we wanted to get into a house and a yard and all that stuff.
I think the situation could be a lot worse, obviously. At least he's on a contending team. He's playing with an absolute stud and star in Anthony Edwards. So, like Lou said, too, he's on the Western Conference. This isn't a team he's going to have to see a lot. Now, when he goes back to MSG, of course, he's going to want to have something to prove. He's going to want to be, you know, he wants them to regret making that trade. And so I think anytime it's nature that he's gonna have these feelings of animosity. But once the ball goes up and once they start doing and winning games on their own team, you kind of just forget about last season and everything that happened in New York.
It is good that it is the Western Conference. It is a very fresh, clean start. It's October 17th. We're going to do our first Kawhi Leonard story and see how many of these we do during the course of the year. He has, according to Clippers assistant coach Brian Shaw, has not participated in any on-court work yet with the team. Is this a concern?
Yeah, it's a concern just knowing his history, knowing his injuries that he's had, that he's sustained with the departure of Paul George, too. A lot of the onus is on Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, so they're going to have to carry a much more load now without Paul George there. And so the fact that he's not doing any contact, he's not playing 5-on-5, he's not doing anything on the court, that is definitely it's very concerning going in, like we've always talked about, going into this new stadium, going into this, this new season. There should be aspirations of championships and contending. And with Paul George leaving and now him not being on the floor and missing training camp, it's just kind of delaying his time getting back. Now, hearing this, I'd be surprised if he's ready for their first game of the season. So
I mean,
this is definitely not a good sign, just knowing everything Kawhi's also went through injury-wise.
With that being said, though, the Clippers have a lot of experience with Kawhi missing games due to injuries, right? So if I'm them, if I'm a Terrence Mann that just got a new deal, or I'm a Norm Powell, this is an opportunity for me to shine. They got to have next man up mentality. Kawhi will be back when he's back. But other than that, hey, listen, we're pros too, and we can get this job done. Obviously, those are some big shoes to fill, but they should be excited about the opportunity to play extended minutes, to play in bigger roles, and still give this team a chance to win a lot of basketball games.
Here's the thing, Lou, and I'm curious to see what you think. Because of all the trades and all the things they've done in the last years, they don't really own a first-round draft pick until 2030, which doesn't bode well if you're dealing with a Kawhi Leonard, an aging Kawhi Leonard who still has all of these injury issues. Are we looking at a situation where the Los Angeles Clippers, brand new building, richest owner in sports, could be a bottom-tier team in sports?
I don't see that happening. You still got a capable all-star in James Harden. Call him old, aged, whatever or not. He's still a bona fide star in this league. James Harden is going to win you a lot of basketball games. And like you said, you have a guy like a Terrence Mann, a Zubac, Norman Powell. These are some guys that are in unique positions in their career where they're right there on the cusp of being from a young guy to a veteran. It's time for them to show that veteran leadership. They got to step up, and they're going to win a lot of basketball games, and especially in that new building. You can't start that building off with bad vibes in a rebuild. You got to get that thing back on track. That's somewhere that the Clippers want to call home. They want to establish themselves as a real resident of the Los Angeles sports scene. That's not the way to do it. So if I'm them, I'm giving myself a best shot I can at trying to go out and win as many games as I can with the group that I have.
And I love their signing of Derrick Jones. If he can do anything close to what he did last year for Dallas, he'll be a valuable piece for that. And they also have a lot of guys kind of on their last chance. They have a guy like Kai Jones. They have a guy like Kevin Porter. They have a guy like Chris Dunn. They have a lot of guys like that they've signed that need to have a great season to pretty much stick around in the NBA. So a lot of these guys are going to get an opportunity this year, especially if Kawhi's going to be in and out with James Harden's age. So there's going to be reps, there's going to be opportunities. So can those guys take advantage of it? Can Norman Powell continue to be solid? And can Terrence Mann take that jump that Lou's talking about? Because they're going to get the opportunity.
I like all that, but that does not mean they're not going to be a bottom-tier team.
They're not going to be
they're
good.
So far from the bottom right now.
Yeah, they're not the bottom. They're not the bottom, but they're not the top.
Okay, so they're going to be better than Portland.
For sure better than Portland.
Let's just, I'm not going to do the list. That's just rude. No, I'm saying, but I'm looking long-term,
It's tough
too.
because, to me, looking last year, if you go back and watch everything we said, we thought they were going to re-sign Paul George. We thought they were going to be a top home court advantage team in this new arena. So it is weird to see the look at the place they are now from 4 or 5 months ago to where we thought they'd be. So, yeah, I think this team, to have championship aspirations this season, I think is a little bit fraudulent. But, again, they have enough talent to win games. It's LA too. Free agency, trade market. They're always going to be an option for good players to go there. So there's teams in a lot worse shape.
And you might see a more balanced Clippers team anyways. Paul George moves on, Russell Westbrook moves on. Now you have Kawhi dealing with injuries. You got James Harden there, and now you have other guys who are used to being in certain role player positions. You know what I'm saying? So now that they get an opportunity to step up, you might see a more balanced attack from this Clippers team.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll talk some more basketball on the other side when we are joined by the lovely and talented Ryen Russillo. There he is. Look at him, bright and early. Hi, Ryen.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back. Run it up, then run it back.
Ooh, we are back, joined by our partner, our colleague, host of the Ryen Russillo podcast right here on FanDuel TV. Look at him. You know he hates being up this early.
Looking swole, Ryen.
Ryen, there's no better way. I mean, this is our first show with you this season. We got all kinds of preseason love to do, but the Celtics, we have to start there. Your Celtics. It's hard to believe because there were so many haters. I guess myself was included last season. I didn't think they would get it done. They most certainly did.
We never talked about that, by the way. You were such a hater.
I just
on the
admitted it.
Celtics.
I'm authentic. But is it possible that they will be better this year than they were last?
I don't know if the record would be better. You win 64 games. You could argue they actually played below that. I mean, they smoked everybody in the East. They won the conference by 14 games. And as they were putting together this historic statistical season, I know, watching them all the time, I was like, are they going to get weird, though, late in some of these playoff games offensively? Because I kept seeing it happen in the regular season games, but it was never this fatal flaw. And you could argue it happened twice in the NBA Finals, and it still didn't matter. It was such a bad matchup for Dallas because Dallas was going to get spaced out in a way that they hadn't really had to face yet. And I think the only thing that gets in their way is just complacency. The Porzingis injury. I think for 3 years I've been wondering how much longer can Al Horford go, and he continues to go. So, I don't know how he does it. I mean, he's played so many big minutes for this team, especially with the Porzingis part. Like, the Porzingis part was supposed to unlock all these different versions of what they could do in the playoffs, and they didn't even need it. So the only way, it would only be human nature. Human nature would be the only way, because I still think that they're collectively young enough. I understand Drew and Al, but I still think the core pieces of Tatum and Brown, who play all the time, and White is young enough, that they should still be motivated to put this thing together. So I picked OKC just because I think it's so hard to repeat, but I think they meet in the finals, and I might be wrong.
I think that's a fun finals. It's funny you say that too, because we, as sports nerds, we're always like, oh, the hangover after a championship. Whether you buy into that or not is one thing, but the fact is you have Jayson Tatum, who was by all means disrespected, at least in a lot of people's minds over the course of the summer. Jaylen Brown, who was also disrespected, not being chosen, all of the things that went down with that. You couldn't have handed them more motivation. Are we looking at a Tatum MVP type season? And is it possible he is going to get an MVP?
Whenever I look at MVP voting, I think that you have to kind of look at the momentum of it, because I think people just get fatigued. I don't know if Jokic can win it again this year because he's won it so many times, and you could argue he was still a deserving vote in the year Embiid won it. Then sometimes I'll think of a playoff exit for somebody who's on that MVP line, and it's if they have an embarrassing playoff exit, I think then that's kind of a hangover in the eyes of voters, being well, this guy's put up all these stats, but remember when he lost in the second round just last year? So whenever I look at Tatum, Tatum's in this weird spot in that, guess what? He's never going to be Jokic, peak Giannis, Luka. He's not those guys. That's okay. He's better than the other 460 players, So the problem is, though, when you start talking about MVP for him, I don't know that he's ever going to be selfish enough with the talent on this team and dynamic enough to have a Luka statistical season to win it. So I wouldn't pick him. But I think, it's okay to be maybe the 5th or 6th best player in the NBA.
Yeah, Ryen, I think that Jayson Tatum, I think his year would be now, just after everything this summer and the Jaylen Brown's best player on his team and all that basically stuff that he's gone through. But you're right, his team is so good, but I don't think his numbers, the only thing holding him back from him is his numbers aren't going to be gaudy enough like these other. SGA could put up 35 a game, and they're going to be the #1 seed in the Western Conference. I think that might give him the edge, but I think it's Tatum's year. I hated what they did to him this summer. I hate how they bring him to the Olympics. They played 2 other guys on his team. I didn't like any of that. So I think now he's got motivation. He's got more of more stuff to prove.
But I like the perspective, though. Like he said, he's not going to be selfish enough to go out and get those numbers. That's just not his style of basketball.
And his team's so good that he doesn't have to do that for them to be the best team in the East. But another team in the East is the 76ers. They obviously upgraded this summer by acquiring Paul George. But now Joel Embiid is saying that he's not playing back-to-backs this season, probably for the rest of his career. How concerning is that the big fella is obviously banged up? He didn't look like himself in the Olympics. Now he's missing pre-season or training camp to no back-to-backs. How concerning is that?
It's massively concerning. Unfortunately, I don't know how you guys do it, but like I put kind of players into different buckets or teams into different buckets where, it's like hopeful, right? I remain hopeful. And for Embiid, for years with me, it was always, I liked him so much. He was so talented. He's so dominant. The stats are off the charts. It would be this kind of like hopeful category where I'm like, you know what? Because here's what I don't like. What I don't like, and I'm sure, you guys have played, all three of you.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing that.
Like, I think the easiest thing in the world to do when you're sitting in the media seat, I'm serious, man. Beadle has handles.
Hey, man. Defense.
When I would see somebody on TV say, like, you can never win a championship with this person, I think it's so incredibly unfair because the chances are you're going to be right. So it'll look like you had this awesome take and you had this great perspective, but really the math is in your favor because it's so hard to win a championship, So when we talk about the different stars, it's like, okay, you can never win a championship with that guy. Like, again, I'm a huge Chris Paul fan. So if you say, oh, hey, guess what? We're right. You never win a title with that. It's like, is it because of his approach or he just didn't win? Like, I think it's very different to say, someone is actually, because of the way they play, incapable of winning a championship versus just never got a championship. But it doesn't mean that their game was that flawed, right? So that's all the preamble here to Embiid and the Sixers team in that now after last year, and look, I know the big guys hurt all the time, but like I would never give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. And I also would throw Paul George into that. I think Paul George, when Kawhi went down in that Utah series, did something, at least for me, to not have him be in this group of like a total playoff write-off, where I'm like, for years, I'm like, man, what is up? Like, you're so good, and you can just see something's a little off. And then he had that Jazz series, and they went a little bit further, so I was like, okay, all right, at least we have something there. But, the Clippers really needed these dudes to step up last year against Dallas, and Kawhi went out again, and it didn't really happen. So that's two guys that I'm not 100% sure of. And across the board, Embiid, whether it's the injuries or not, he's a different player in the playoffs. So they're deep. Daryl Morey did a great job this offseason. Maxey is such a stud, and his personality, I think, is like so perfect that maybe he's enough to almost, this sounds weird, being the alpha of the three because he's going to carry the load so much because you don't have the same concerns because he's younger. But it's like a TBD for me and the Sixers. Like, you talk to me in February and tell me how healthy everybody is, and then tell me how everybody, and then tell me how healthy everybody is in April. So
yeah. So with all that being said, does that put more or less pressure on Joel Embiid compared to the other superstars in the league for this coming season?
Way more. I mean, dude, this guy's talking a lot, and he it just seemed like the MVP was the most important thing to him, and then he got it, and then it's like, okay, well, now I'm focused on this kind of stuff, and like, cool, I voted for him that year. I had a hard time with that vote that season, but I felt like the Olympic thing was weird at times. It was kind of funny to me when immediately he was like foul hunting. And it was like, dude, it's not gonna happen here. Like, we're gonna start playing. And I saw some stuff in that Knicks series, even though he was hurt and he had like the 50. Like, if you look at the stats, you think I'm crazy. I don't know. I saw stuff in some of the late fourth quarter things there where I don't know that he was entirely comfortable of the demands of what MVP is asked of in a tight playoff game.
And to me, just by watching him, you could just tell he wasn't himself. Like in the Olympics, he's hurt. Like, he was playing on hurt. He just wanted. So to me, I take that with a grain of salt, just because I think when he is healthy, he's the most dominant player in the NBA. He hasn't been himself, and clearly he's still not, to miss this entire training camp and preseason. And now saying no back-to-backs is tough.
Yeah. Ryan, another team that's going to challenge the Boston Celtics in the East is going to be the New York Knicks. With the addition of Mikal Bridges and Cat, are we looking at a championship team or no? What's your thoughts on that?
I think they're in the mix. I really do. And I love what they can do on the perimeter defensively against a team like Boston. So if you're looking at how you're going to slow down, like there were some matchups in the East last year. I'm like, you're going to start with Caleb Martin on Tatum. Okay, but now Tyler Hero's checking Jaylen Brown off the tip. I was like, dude. So the Knicks don't have that issue. They've got OG, they've got Mikal. So that's two guys, size-wise, defensive resumes that you would think would be able to at least, guys always, how it is. Guys still get their points, but it's like, was there any resistance involved whatsoever during the playoffs? And look, I'm not the biggest Cat guy. I don't have posters of him at home, but I would say based on fitting a need, And then, you know, even though DiVincenzo's like turned into a Hall of Famer this summer, I loved what he did at the end of the year last year. This dude's talking about it. I'm like, whoa. I got to go back on synergy here. He probably was going to get lost in this perimeter shuffle for minutes. So the Knicks are like, okay.
Could be a good thing that he got moved, honestly, with the wings.
But we
that
were
they have
robbed of the Villanova documentary. We were robbed, Ryan.
Now,
Sources say
this is part of the story as well. This makes the documentary a little bit more entertaining now.
I don't know if it does.
I feel like Hoops docs get greenlit all the time, so we're not, you know, it'll work out for them. You know, maybe, I don't know, there might have been other guys on the team who were like, at least we got one of these Nova guys out of here. We brought another guy in.
That's a good point, actually. I was like, over it.
That was an emphatic, I know that it was a yes. I just really like that Cat. I mean, we can play the game of like Cat, New York City, or whatever, but like, it's not, he had the keys to a franchise's #1 pick for a long time. He put up huge numbers, like Hall of Fame numbers. I still resist the best shooting big of all time. I think that's a little disrespectful of KD and Dirk, but we'll get into that another day because I think dribbling into pull-ups is a little tougher than just catch and shoot outside all the time. But look, he buries it unless it's the Mavericks. So his fit for what they needed as a stretch 5, and if Mitchell is back and healthy, the option of the 4-5, I really like it for them. And look, Bridges might have 4 points one night and play an awesome game.
There you go.
OG is, you know what I mean? OG's capable of hitting a bunch of corner threes, and I don't know how great he is like putting it on the floor and creating on his own, but he's had some big games. And Brunson, I mean, you want to talk about shattering any ceiling you could ever have for a player. So I like them better than Milwaukee. I like them better than Philly. I think what this front office has done in such a short amount of time is remarkable.
The depth is my only problem with them.
Well, yeah, obviously it won't be Cat, it won't be Jalen, but do you see a world where either Mikal or OG comes off the bench to give them some juice coming off the pine?
Yeah, that's an awesome question because I was thinking about it when I was looking at the depth chart. I think Tibbs loves Miles McBride. I don't know if he likes Precious as much as I do. I mean, hell, I even have a soft spot for Jericho Sims for some reason. I don't know.
What's going on here?
You got a poster right here, but not Cat?
You know, look, you know what I think it was? Is when I was watching him at Texas, I texted somebody in front office. I was like, dude, you know who might be able to make a roster is Jericho Sims? And he was like, get out of here.
Yeah. So now you're like, for life.
Yeah, told you.
Yeah, 11th guy. Nailed it.
Yeah.
You know, look, it's a really good question, because like when I look at Denver, I go, dude, where are the guys? There's like 4 recent draft picks. I'm like, do any of these guys, like, can any of them actually play like real minutes? So would he break it up? Maybe, you know, maybe. I hadn't really thought about it, Lou, but I think
it would have to be
idea.
OG, though, would be the only option. There's no way Bridges is coming off the bench, and obviously there's no way Brunson and Towns are. So Josh Hart makes sense. You could put a McBride in there. You could put a TJ Warren or a Landry in the starting lineup, but like, it's got to be OG would be the only one that would even make sense.
It's Mikal for me too, because he can score the basketball.
Yeah,
you can still put the ball in his hands. He can go get you a bucket.
Mikal Bridges
Tibbs
is
is probably just going to be like, dude, you guys go out there and play 38 minutes. And
yeah, they're gonna play the whole game anyways. They don't need a bench.
That's what it is. You don't really need a big second unit because you're playing.
And I will say the Celtics, all their concern last year was depth. But when you have the best starting 5 in the NBA, clearly that is a recipe for a championship. It was last year.
Yeah, when I look at the depth stuff, I probably can get a little too carried away with it, because then I'm like, where? Like, I don't even know if number 8 can play, right? When I go through all of the stuff. That's bad. But in the playoffs, like, I'm sitting here worried about Denver's depth, and I go, am I overrating my concern about, Beadle, all right, good.
Yeah, just relax, right? It's going to be all right. They're going to be good.
Gonna take the day off now.
Yeah, take the day off.
Yeah, Ryan, moving on to the Western Conference, you talked about earlier, you love OKC, as do I. Have them coming out of the West. Love the pieces they added. Did you see Hartenstein just broke his hand or something? He's out a couple weeks.
5-6.
SGA, MVP status last year took off. Jalen and Chet, budding stars. Is this team still too young, or are they built for a championship right now?
No, they're not. I mean, normally I would totally agree with you. You go through the history of young basketball teams that did well during the regular season. You're just like, I mean, there's a couple outliers, but traditionally decades and decades of results have told us that young teams. But the thing is, they already had the 1 seed in a brutal top of the West last year with 57 wins. If Jalen Williams, number 1, you know, I think his first run to the playoffs wasn't great, was inconsistent. if he's a little bit more seasoned, feels a little bit better, they probably win that Dallas series. Or if, you know, PJ and Derrick Jones don't turn into Steph Curry. So there's a bounce here or there where they're in the NBA Finals already. So I think building off of that, and I didn't even realize that Hart news until you just told me this morning. So what I loved about what they did is they really needed another option offensively, which seemed shocking. Maybe it's Kason Wallace, who showed us something last year, but Caruso's like a knockdown shooter. We know he's first or second team All-NBA defense, and the glaring statistical thing that they had that wasn't positive, because the rest of the statistical resume was like incredible for him, is that their rebounding rate was like 28th in the league. They just weren't getting balls because Chet, as much as we like him, you know, he's just getting it handed to him certain nights and certain matchups, and to ask him to be the 5 all the time, like that's what I loved about the Hartenstein acquisition. So they really addressed a couple things there. So I think they're better. It may not reflect that in the record, but I think they addressed a serious weakness, and I think it'll be the floor of the younger players getting a little bit more season makes them even better too.
So we know they're going to be a top 3 team, at least in the Western Conference, let's say. Now, that means you get 2 All-Stars. Who's the second All-Star this year, Chet or Jalen? And by the way, it's Kason, not Kaysen. I learned some new stuff today too. Is it Kason?
No
Is it Kason Wallace?
Thank you, Ryan, for making him smarter.
I didn't know. Thought it was Kaysen.
No, it sounds better. Kason sounds cooler anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I thought it was. I mean, sometimes I'll wait like 3 years. Remember Dan Gadzuric?
Yeah.
As a reach. It was like 8 years later. I was like, thanks, dude. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like we saw a dip on our viewers. Pick it back up. Let's see. You know, I think one of the things that when I look at the rest of those teams, like, I just think they're more complete. And if we're talking about the second All-Star for it, yeah, it's Jalen Williams. I think he's on the cusp of being pretty special as a scorer.
Well,
I love that.
Maybe this will answer your question, because the Thunder, they have 5 potential first-round picks in the upcoming draft. If there's
It's
a
so
star,
unfair.
That's ridiculous.
But if there's a star out there that they should take a serious look at, who would be the star that they could add?
Wait, you mean, in like the trade market or something like that?
Absolutely.
Like, what's their need to even get even better than they already are? God, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like, they didn't even want to go after a center last year while Dallas, you know, went for it with Gafford and the PJ acquisition. And it appeared like, I've always kind of liked Gafford a little bit. Like, I understand, you know, you're not going to be sitting there inducting him into the Ring of Honor for a franchise at any point, but like, he's a really nice player. And that's the kind of guy, based on the price, like, here's Presti, which is just, Presti has gift cards in his pocket, and he's like, I still don't want to use them. So he didn't want to use them last year.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. If I say like, hey, who's the big star that they can throw 3 picks at? I just wonder if Presti's like, well, I may not re-sign him, so do I really want to use 3 first? And by the way, they were just good enough, like right there, good enough to almost have already done it. And just to be totally transparent, I definitely forgot the second All-Star question, and I can't believe I figured out what you would ask me as I stalled for 10 seconds.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do television. That was a lesson.
I will say, I think they got the 2 pieces that make them better. Hartenstein and Caruso are 2 players that are
So what are you gonna do with all the picks?
They know their roles.
Let's say this. Like, sorry, Chandler, but like, we'll just throw out a name for like the exercise. What if Miami's not good? Which is always shocking because Spo's so good. And they go, you know, we're not re-signing Jimmy Butler anyway. He's 35 years old or whatever. Like, can somebody give us a couple late first for him? Like, would you OKC wouldn't even, I don't even think they'd want to
I don't think you
that.
consider it.
I think that stunts the growth of Jalen. I think they just keep doing exactly what they're doing.
So there's no one, I mean, I guess realistically.
It'd have to be a really, really good role player. I don't think you add any more star power to this. You're developing stars. You're creating stars already. Wow. SGA is already there. And like you said, you got Jalen Williams on the cuff. You have Chet Holmgren, who's going to have another year of experience under his belt. You have guys already in your system that can potentially be that already.
Totally. This has been brilliantly put together, this team. The fact that they just have extra pieces that they don't even need or want or make, it's been amazing to watch Presti sort of orchestrate this entire thing. Yeah, I think I have one as 1 too, by the way.
We haven't even seen Unleashed Usman Jang yet. So.
I'm so glad you added that in. It would have not been a complete.
I don't know why Lou's laughing.
Because he's rude. That's why. Let's talk Timberwolves for a second.
We can't even talk about Lou Dort for 2 seconds here.
I love Lou Dort.
Right? Isaiah Joe is a sniper.
Two first names.
But the list goes on and on.
I'm telling you.
I look at their depth chart and I'm like, I think Denver would kill for Kenrich Williams, or Aaron Wiggins. Like, there's some guys when you see them out there, and like, think about it. I'll ask you guys: do they close big with Chet and Hartenstein, or do they bring in Dort?
That's the luxury of what they have. Yeah, they're so versatile. They're so deep. Think about it. The only person they lost was Josh Giddey.
Yep.
That's it. Right? And they gained 2 valuable role players. They're still developing these young guys. They re-signed Isaiah Joe, who I think is an absolute stud. They're unbelievable with what they're doing.
Okay, so we have all that. Right, we know Oklahoma City, young, talented. I would not even say up and coming. They're here. We know what the Timberwolves did in the offseason, and we can never forget Anthony Edwards is walking on this planet. So next 5 years, you're buying stock in OKC or Minnesota. Who are you taking?
It has to be OKC. I like Ant better, but SGA's been better statistically. So it's kind of like, hey, who do you like better? Well, I'm going to lose the argument because it's fun. It's more fun to watch Ant, and his personality is like everything that I would want. I had a quote about him being like, he's everything about him is like what you want. They put it up in the Minneapolis airport.
Oh,
like,
what?
Yes.
That's
one of the most underrated airports in the world. So that was a big deal.
Is that
for my family.
Is that your new favorite airport?
Hold on a second, because I was about to ask you, I want your Ryen Russillo hottest take before the season gets
started. Oh, he just gave it.
But now, was that it?
Yeah, that's my sizzler. Yeah, are you guys down? Do you not know it? Like, what's your deal? I don't. You can go anywhere from Minneapolis. Iceland's like 5 hours.
I'll be honest with you, Ryan. I haven't been to a commercial airport in Minnesota.
Oh,
in Minnesota before. So.
Biggest job.
No, I'm just calling a spade a spade. No, I'm just.
I like those kind of airports where you don't have to connect 17 times.
Was there a Shake Shack in there? What we got? What are we dealing with?
No, but you can get to anything.
I don't know that I've seen Beadle in 28B recently either, just for the record.
There's a 28?
My goodness.
Crap. What's going on back there?
It gets worse.
Ryen Russillo.
Holy smokes.
He's got the Ryen Russillo podcast right here. We will talk soon, Ryan. Thank you. We're taking a break.
Thanks, guys.
Fresh off of Game 3.
We're just getting started.
Napheesa Collier. God, I love that she's here. Yeah, trooper.
That's pro.
We'll talk to her.
That's a pro right there. Yes.
I mean, the resume speaks for itself, but the fact that you are here this morning, last night's game, I will say this, it was, that last 60 seconds was just a ridiculous, emotional roller coaster. If I felt it, I don't even know how you're feeling today. Tough loss. First of all, after something like that, do you just stay off the TV, stay off the social media, don't want to see the replays of the shot, or do you actually watch it and sort of let that motivate?
I actually rewatched the game, but yeah, I stay off of social media because I don't want to see everything that happened like 1,000 times, so.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of places. Kayla McBride said afterward, it was a great player making a good shot. Is that what we're doing? That's just exactly what it was. There was nothing to be done. I mean, I don't even know, it was a 3 for no reason, but it was a hell of a shot. So what do you call it?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I thought that we guarded her well. She made a tough shot at the end of the game. That's not what lost us the game. I feel like we didn't make plays that we needed to down the stretch. And then, it was just a good player making a good shot. I mean, that was a really deep step back 3. Like, that's a tough shot. So, I thought we just didn't execute down the stretch, and then it led to that.
So now how do you go into Game 4? How do you bounce back for something like that? Do you look at it on the bright side? Like, look, we were right there. This could easily be 2-1 our favor. Or how do you kind of get over that shock and that hangover from that one shot, basically?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a part of sports. I imagine this is how New York felt after our Game 1.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
losing at the end like that, you have to be able to bounce back. I mean, this is a live or die situation. We can't really wallow in it. It does suck because I feel like we played really good defense for most of the game. We just didn't execute on offense at the end. We missed a lot of easy shots that we normally make. So I think that is like the bright side of that. We played well. We have to execute at the end.
Yep, that's what I wanted to ask you. 30-11 last night for Breanna Stewart. What adjustments do you guys make on Friday to kind of curve that?
I think that they kind of took advantage of the switching that we were doing. So Stewie going against our smaller people. So I don't know. We haven't had practice yet. I don't know what adjustments we're making, but definitely, like, she's one of the best players in the world. We have to get her under control. So I'm sure it'll be emphasis for tomorrow.
I love that your coach is never shy. She will say exactly what she's thinking at all times. She said the game's called differently for you two, for you and Brianna. Do you agree with that? It's a tricky question.
Yeah. Try not to get fined.
We can answer. Yeah, that could be true. I think that would be.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like I wasn't getting the same calls yesterday, but I mean, at the end of the day, I also miss shots that I always make. So you can't blame the refs. I mean, of course, like, yeah, I wish I got those easy, free throws on shots I felt like I got fouled on. But again, you can't blame the refs. Like, I should have made different shots. I should have been stronger. The game is getting called. Like, they're calling it like that for me the whole game. So I have to be able to adjust. So you can't, blame the refs. No one cares that happened. They only see a win or a loss. So you kind of have to be able to play through it.
Speaking of Breanna Stewart, I mean, it's watching a game between your two teams. It's sort of like you just need a separate camera just on YouTube because there's so much going on all the time. And she, at one point, wanted a ref to call a tech on you. I don't even know if anything. Is it tech worthy? Was it tech worthy? Do you guys talk about it afterwards? Is it stop snitching?
Yeah, stop snitching.
How do you deal with this?
This is frowned upon, by the way.
This is not cool.
Yeah. I know they're all pointing. You see Sabrina's little finger in the background too. No, I haven't talked to them. Like, I feel like we're, they're public enemy number one during the finals. I'm sure we'll all laugh about it after, but I'm not really in the giggling mood, when we're in this series. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like I was really heated in the moment. I probably could have gotten a technical. Thank goodness I didn't. But yeah, I mean, I probably got lucky on that one.
Yeah. Napheesa, the WNBA announced that they, next season, are moving to a 7-game finals, which is pretty cool. Are there any other changes that you personally would like to see implemented, or you think we got it figured out?
In the format, you mean?
Yeah.
Like of how we're playing? Yeah, I mean, I think they're doing both the first rounds with 5 series or maybe just the second round with 5. I think just the expansion of the series in general is just really good for the game. It means growth. It means people want to see us playing more. We're getting more games out there, more exposure. So I think this is a great starting step or, first step for us to make.
Let me ask you, first team All-WNBA, Defensive Player of the Year, second in MVP voting. Do you feel like this year you took your game up to another level, or are we just finally paying attention and getting the recognition that you deserve?
I actually get asked this question a lot. What is different about my game? I don't think a lot is different about my game. I do think there's just more exposure this year, just all around in the entire league. And so naturally, more players are getting discovered. I feel like I've been doing this for years. I don't know.
Absolutely. That's without a doubt.
It is funny. Like, all of a sudden, people see you differently, and you're like, I'm the
been
same.
here. Like nothing changed.
Been here. You guys are here with us.
There you go. I know it's hard to look ahead to January 17th, but and for people who don't know this, Breanna Stewart, the woman she's battling it out with right now, they actually founded Unrivaled together, a 3-on-3 league. Congratulations on the TNT deal. That is huge.
Amazing,
That'll be fun to be able to watch. Well done. And what is it? Like, for people that are not familiar with what this is going to be, how is it 3-on-3? How is it going to be so different from what we're watching now? Other than the sheer number of players on the court. I don't want to hear their smart ass answer. Okay.
Yeah. So it's actually 3-on-3 full court. So it's about 2/3 the size of a regular court. So you still have that up and down game, but there's just more space. Our game, I think, has been compared to like the NBA of the 80s, where it's so paint heavy and bogged down. So this really gives us a chance to kind of spread out. And the premise is the best 30 players in the world. So you're going to see top talent being able to really show their skill set every night because there's more room. It's the same width as a normal court. I think just the skill set that you're going to be able to see is going to be so fun. Super heavy content based. Everyone in the league has equity. We're really trying to grow the game. We have the highest average salary in women's sports, which we're really excited to offer.
Wow.
So just all around, like, I'm so excited for people to see it because there's even more than people know.
Well done.
That's incredible.
So 26 of the 30 players have been announced. When can we expect to hear the Final Four? Do we have any hints of who it could be? What we got?
I think we might have a couple more rookies in there. That might be a hint. I don't know when the rollouts are. I've kind of pulled back since the playoffs with like that side. So I find out when you guys find out which player is getting announced that day. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark already said that she's not going to be playing any off-season basketball. I'm assuming that you guys made a kind of a push for her to to play in this? How were those talks? Did you guys offer her a bag to come join you guys?
Yeah, well, I feel like it's just so crazy because the growth that Caitlin has brought to the game, the sheer amount of money that she's making these teams, people are having to move their venues for when she comes to play. And she's getting paid like $75,000 a year. So definitely we want to be a part of that change. And that's what we're doing. We're obviously, you know, I think she deserves that. I think she should be one of the top players in the world just for the sheer numbers that she's bringing. So I think that's something that needs to change, and that's what we're trying to do.
That's awesome.
With that style of play, who do you think will be the most dominant player in that 3-on-3 style?
You know what? That's why we're having a one-on-one tournament in the middle to settle that question.
What?
So we'll see.
Queen of the court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't kidding about content. That's happening? Okay, this is going to be amazing. By the way, was some of the motivation, because you mentioned the 75,000, which, again, it blows people's minds when they hear that. And then with Brittany Griner, all of that happened with her, having to play overseas, the money and all that. Is that part of the motivation to put this league together so that the money can be raised?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're not making the money that we feel like we should be making. We're, you know, a new CBA is on the horizon, so hopefully that's changing soon. But overseas for so long is people had to play overseas to make enough money to, you know, support themselves throughout the year. And I do think overseas is a great option for some people, but it shouldn't be your only option to be able to make money. And especially now, most of the money we're making is off the court. Through brand endorsements is where people are making the bulk of their money, which is great that people are supporting women's sports and supporting us, but we're basketball players. Like, we should be making the most money on the court and getting paid accordingly for that.
This kind of goes hand in hand then because of the attendance. You talked about that as well. What has been the best part about this newfound attention, all these new fans that have sort of joined the fray?
Yeah, it's just so fun. Like, this year's felt like a frenzy. I'm sure you guys know, just with like all the new people coming in and the explosion that we're having in women's sports in general. So just the fan attendance has been crazy. Like, social media has been really crazy, for better or worse sometimes. But I think it's really fun. And I do like those discussions. I mean, there are a lot of discussions that like have no room in our sport, but just the discourse of who's your favorite player and the rivalries, and this is my favorite player, and I hate you guys because that my team's, you know, rival. I think that's amazing for the growth of the sport. You need to have that discourse and those rivalries and things like that. So that has been really fun to see, just how I think you know that sports are rising when you do have that, not just only support. When you have people arguing and fighting for their teams, that's how you know that the sport is growing.
Yeah, when you're insulting the women players as much as we're insulting the men's players. I feel like that's when you've arrived.
Yeah.
What is the worst part, though, of how this is all blown up?
I do think there's been a lot of hate, just misdirected. Like, sports, yes, it's going to be really competitive, and you can cheer for your favorite team, and you can hate the other player on the other team. But because of the sport, you know, I feel like it did get pretty nasty in some cases. And again, multiple people have spoken out about how there's no room for that. We have one of the most inclusive leagues in the world. Certainly there's no room for that in the WNBA. Root for your favorite team, hate their rival team, but it gets really, really nasty. So that has been kind of hard to see.
Is there something that sticks out in particular? What's the most ridiculous thing that you've heard this year?
A lot of players have been getting a lot of like really personal hate emails. Like, I don't know if you guys saw Dejanay Carrington got like an email calling her like the N-word, and like people are getting death threats, just stuff like that. So that is just too much, obviously.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, people are stupid.
Even doing that. This is why not everyone should be allowed to have a phone. That would be the America I want, Napheesa. Again, it was a hell of a game last night. I know it didn't end the way you wanted it to.
It's a hell of a series so far.
Much respect for waking up and doing this with us this morning. Good luck tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on.
All right,
Thank
game
you.
4, WNBA Finals, mañana.
Thanks.
We'll be back.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it.
Hot takes we're doing right here in the break right now. We're going to do some, what's going to happen here? Non-favorite. How are we doing non-favorite? All right, the East. A non-favorite. Can't be the Celtics. Who's the best to take them? You got odds up there, but you do
Wait, who's the team that's has a better chance to knock
throw
off?
the Celtics out. Who's beating?
I mean, it's Philly if they're healthy. I'm sticking to it. I think New York's roster on paper looks really good. They still have to play. They still have to go out there and execute. I think if Joel Embiid's healthy, which he's not right now, I'm taking Philly as the team to knock
Not right
them
now. He may never be.
Or he might be come postseason time. Michelle.
Lou.
Give me the Cleveland Cavaliers.
happening?
That was just all.
Plus 18. You're just trying.
You're just going rogue.
He's betting like me. Like we want money.
One, I'm going rogue, and two, Beadle and I have already told you guys our betting styles. We're here to hit home runs.
Yeah.
We're here to just
make
double our money.
$60.
Yeah, we're trying to quadruple up. Give me the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kenny Atkinson is going to have them boys flying up and down that basketball court. Donovan Mitchell is going to be happy to be in Cleveland. He's going to be excited. Darius Garland is going to turn the corner. Everybody will be back healthy. Give me the Cleveland Cavaliers.
They lost to Detroit last night by double digits.
Well, that was
That's
the JB
preseason.
Bickerstaff revenge game.
That's preseason.
I just want to hear Lou bitch about preseason. It doesn't matter.
I will say, I would like to see Evan Mobley on the Cavs take that jump, too. I thought by now he would be an all-star, he'd be a solidified. I'd love to see him take that jump into that new era.
I mean, everyone got paid, everyone's happy,
Yeah,
content.
come on, you got your team, got your new coach.
I like it. Fair enough. The Western Conference, the Thunder are early favorites. I've already put a little bit of money on them.
This one, I think
this one's interesting.
I think this one's.
Give me the Phoenix Suns.
No doubt, Phoenix Suns.
No doubt.
Plus 850,
plus
Phoenix
850?
Suns.
Yeah, give me the Phoenix Suns right now.
New
I'll just
coach,
skip
another
everybody.
year. All three of them, if they stay healthy. Brad Beal's talking like he's full go.
Knock on wood again.
I like the Phoenix Suns. I think that they're going to have a really, really good season with Coach Bud, their offense. They got point guards now, Tyus Jones, Monte Morris. I love the Phoenix Suns.
Love
at
both
plus.
of you.
Hey, I don't like the
I'm
Lakers. I don't
actually
like the Warriors.
shocked because Chandler's usually like the Dallas guy here.
You telling me I can get a plus 850 bet and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal are going to give me an opportunity to win that money?
Absolutely.
Yeah, give me that.
I'm surprised that Minnesota is above Dallas, to be honest.
Really?
With you. Yeah, I think Dallas is the second best team, and then I think Denver, and then
And I feel like Dallas got better. They didn't they added Klay Thompson, and they were in the championship last year. I don't know how that translates to them being a worse team than before.
You know who else Dallas? They got Quentin Grimes. Which remember years ago that was like the Knicks didn't put him in a trade for Donovan Mitchell, and it was Quentin
Yeah,
Grimes.
it was beloved
Then
too.
Dallas just like secretly got him this offseason. So Dallas is going to have a good year, but give me the Suns. Give me that big three.
What about Denver and the?
I'm never counting them out. It's like counting out the Bucks.
Did something happen last year though, where it felt like the magic was a little off? Like it might have run out a little bit in Denver. I'm just asking, not saying.
You going on the vibe?
Just the vibe.
It's a
Like,
Yeah,
felt
it's like
different.
I just feel like they've been stagnant. They have the same
Yeah.
team. They have the same bench. Like they don't make any big moves, and these other teams have these they make big splashes. So listen, they're consistent. They're going to be there. They have the best player in the world, but I like the 850 plus 850
All
more
right,
than
Phoenix Suns in the West,
550.
if not the Thunder. MVP, we throwing that one up there too?
Yeah,
Maybe
throw it
we'll
up
see.
there. See, now we're talking
Now
odds.
we're
We're
talking.
talking odds. SGA, I love, Lou, and I know you do too, because they're going to have a great record. I think they're going to win the West. Jayson Tatum plus 1,300.
I feel like that's the dollar. Put a dollar on that.
You know what's interesting? If Jaylen Brown is their best player, and everyone's saying that, why isn't he up there? Why?
Because it's all a conspiracy against him.
They're just
Facts.
trying to have them hate each other so bad.
Yeah.
You know
Jason
what?
Tatum
I
plus
love that-
1,300.
I'm
I'm gonna stay in that sweet spot at 5. Give me Ant Edwards, ATL plus 800. We bringing that back
I
to the
just
city.
don't think that's happening.
Well,
Lemon pepper
Wemby
wings
plus
on me,
2,000
we
is not
clear that
happening.
That's wrong.
MVP
Putting a
and-
dollar. Plus 2,000. That's more my speed. That's gonna do it for us today. Ooh, tomorrow's already Friday, you guys. Woohoo! Woo! We'll see y'all bright and early then. Have a.
It's actually going to be sick tomorrow.
No,
You
you're
guys-
not. You're
Run
not.
it back, run it up, then run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, then run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back.